If you follow any of the Xbox goats, then you've probably seen posts just like this. These are posts made by Runnels, and he knows what's going on. And I've kind of caught on to it too. So, today's video, we're going to be talking about the state of exploits in ESO PvP and why it matters. So let's talk about something that's been sitting under the surface of ESO PvP for a long while now, and that is exploits. Now, before we get into this, I want to be very clear. This video is not about exposing players, not about teaching anyone how to do these things, and definitely not about encouraging it. This is purely informational, and I'm only breaking down what's happening in the game right now so people understand what they're experiencing. Because if you've been in battlegrounds or Cyrodiil lately, you've probably felt it. Something just feels off. So let's go through some of the biggest issues that I've seen right now. Starting with number one, first up, Azure Blight. This set was designed with a very specific purpose in mind, dealing damage to monsters. That's its intended use. It wasn't always its intended use, but that's where the devs have taken it. But what players have found is that under certain conditions, it's applying pressure in PvP environments like battlegrounds in ways it really shouldn't. The result, you get situations where players are taking unexpected bursts of damage that don't line up with normal PvP expectations. For example, I got hit for 50k Azure Blight not too long ago in a BG. I'm not going into how it's done, but the takeaway here is simple. When something designed for PvE starts impacting PvP, it creates imbalance, and anybody that says that it used to be a PvP set, so it shouldn't matter, it's not supposed to be now. And using it as a PvP set is an exploit because it's not working the way it's intended to. We're going to go into number two. Mundus stone stacking. So this is something a lot of people have been talking about, Mundus stacking, and I've heard it for years. And normally you're only supposed to have one Mundus stone active at a time. That's part of build identity and balance. But there have been cases where players are running multiple Mundus effects simultaneously, and that's a huge deal. Because Mundus bonuses aren't small, they're core stat boosts. When you stack them, you're essentially breaking the rules of build limitations entirely. Getting to number three, the Armory Station glitch. Now this one was a big deal when it was active. What it allowed players to do was stack multiple 5-piece sets in ways that shouldn't be possible. So instead of making trade-offs in your build, you were getting everything at once. Damage, defense, sustain, all stacked. It was eventually addressed, but for a time it heavily impacted PvP balance, and I remember quite a few players on PlayStation getting banned for it. And then, almost immediately after, we saw another issue take its place, Wizard's Wardrobe. Now this is an add-on, and add-ons themselves aren't the problem, but over the years this one in particular has had multiple bugs tied to it. One of the biggest, set stacking. Players were again able to bypass normal build limitations and stack effects in unintended ways similar to the Armory glitch. And the concerning part is, this hasn't been a one-time issue. There's been a pattern of bugs tied to it over time. Alright, and this one might be a little controversial, but it's still an exploit regardless. Desync-oriented builds. There are builds being created that intentionally push the game's server performance in ways that cause desync. Now, technically, someone using these builds could argue, hey, I'm just using what's in the game. But there's a difference between playing the game and intentionally designing a setup that makes it harder for your opponent's client to properly register what's happening. When your opponent can't see your abilities clearly, can't react properly, or is getting hit by things that don't visually line up, that's where it crosses into exploit territory. I want people to understand that desync itself is not the issue. It's making builds that combo and purposely desync other players, that is the issue. When you take performance and you take lag and you're using it to your advantage to gain an advantage over another player, that is defined as an exploit. Alright, so let's get into animation hiding. Also cosmetic exploits, because that's where this comes from. This is one of the more frustrating ones to deal with as a player. There are ways to manipulate cosmetics or visuals so that your animations are partially or even fully hidden. So from the outside it looks like nothing is happening, but you're still taking damage. And in a game where reaction timing is everything, removing visual clarity gives a massive advantage. You can't counter what you cannot see. Number 7, macros. Let's talk about macros, because yes, they are real, and yes, they're very accessible, especially on PC. Macros allow players to automate parts of their rotation, so instead of manually executing every action, they can have sequences handled for them. What does that do? It frees up their attention. So while their damage rotation is being executed consistently, they can focus entirely on movement, defense, positioning, jumping, blocking, dodging, you name it. Now, to be fair, macros are not perfect. They can't react dynamically. They don't adapt in real time. That's their weakness. But in terms of consistency and pressure, they absolutely provide an advantage. Number 8, glitched champion points. So let's talk about this one. There have been instances where certain CP nodes don't behave the way they're supposed to. Instead of providing balanced bonuses, they overperform, and when that happens, you end up with players getting way more value out of a system that's meant to be evenly scaled. It's not always obvious, but it contributes to that feeling of why is this person hitting so hard, or why are they so tanky? Number 9, proc interaction bugs. Another category that pops up from time to time is unintended proc interactions. This is where sets or abilities start interacting with each other in ways that weren't designed, leading to excessive damage, healing, or uptime. A good example of this would be Horcrux's little shenanigan and spill on why he got banned. What he was doing was using 2 different sets that were unintentionally reacting to each other and causing him to push over 10k weapon and spell damage and be able to constantly pop pots. So individually, these sets on their own might be fine, but when they're combined in the wrong way, they create results that go beyond intended balance. Number 10, terrain and line of sight abuse. So let's get into something that's been around forever but still relevant, terrain abuse. And I'm not talking about kiting towers. I'm talking about using the environment in PvP in ways that aren't intended to. There's a line between smart positioning and breaking line of sight mechanics in ways that aren't functioning correctly. For instance, there are quite a few gaps in Cyrodiil's map, without naming them, that you can basically hide from a Zerg, and they probably wouldn't even know that you're in there unless they saw you go in there. I've also seen instances where people glitch themselves into stairs. These are things that players do, and I've seen certain players get banned for them as well when reported. When players can't hit you without being targetable or avoid damage in ways that shouldn't work, that's where it becomes a problem. It's a bug, and it is an exploit. So what are my thoughts? Why does all this matter? Because PvP is built on fairness, not perfect balance, but understood balance. You win some, you lose some, but you know why. Exploits blur that line. They create situations where fights feel inconsistent, confusing, or outright unwinnable. Not because of skill, but because something behind the scenes isn't working as intended. And that's what frustrates players the most, especially sweaty players who do not exploit. Now again, this video isn't about calling people out, it's about awareness. Because the more people understand what's happening, the better conversations we can have around fixing it. At the end of the day, most of us just want one thing: a fair fight. So if you've experienced any of this or noticed something that feels off, drop it in the comments, keep it respectful, keep it general, and let's talk about it. And if you want more breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Also want to add that anybody who feels like there is a lot of cheaters in this game, there is, okay? There definitely is, and you're not wrong for feeling that way. The people who will cheat and do cheat are going to tell you that, there's no proof, or I'm just that good, or they'll try to gaslight you into thinking that this stuff does not go on. But trust me, from seeing it throughout many years, they do exist, and they are game breaking, and you're not wrong for feeling that way. So like I said, if you want more breakdowns like this and some honest talk, then this is the way to go. Please subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, and let me know your thoughts on exploits and ESO.